Hey folks, Gel again. Okay, first things first, I have a kind of important question to ask you. What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Because it looks to me like a new Kunio game on the PS3 using NES sprites with custom characters and online play and female playable characters even. Why did no one tell me about this? This comes out March 5th, so like probably today or the day after I am posting this. What? Because this looks like a thing. This looks like a thing that we need to play. So yeah, I went on Play Asia, ordered a copy. It will be boxed, $40. Told them to ship it as soon as it came out. Hopefully, I will have it by the 6th, 10th at the latest, and I will do my best to do a Gaming with Gel of it. It will not be a dry run. I will need to figure out the menus and make some custom characters, because heck, if I'm going to play as default characters, and get the hang of how everything works before showing you all whatever I've found. But this looks potentially awesome, especially because I love 4-player fighting games. I have a real fascination with them. And they could be potentially bad or good, and like I've seen some really wonky ones, and I've played some alright ones. And yeah, this looks to be a remake of the it's a combination of a Kunio relay race game and the NES Kunio fighting game. That was actually really awesome. It was 4-player, and I really can't wait to get my hands on this, because, like, even if it is just the NES, I already know it'll be better than the NES game because of the tweaks to the customization. But even if it does just basically play like the NES game, that'll be enough to, that plus online play plus better customization is enough to justify the purchase. So I'm pretty freaking excited about getting my hands on this thing. Now, having said that, how about that Dragonball Xenoverse? I did pick that up on PS4, which apparently is the system it's selling the best on in the States. In Japan, it's selling best on PS3. And, wow, yeah, that game. I am very much enjoying it. If you're unfamiliar with it, it is basically Dragon Ball Z Magical OC Adventures. You get to create your own custom character. You choose from a variety of different races. As you can see, I chose to make a female Majin. The customization is decent enough, and they have like costumes from throughout the series that you can wear. There's like wigs and outfits from other characters. I know you can get Launch, whatever her name's hair and outfit as an unlockable, and I really want to get that, and I don't know how. It might be part of the DLC packs. Anyway, after you do that, like, it's got anime opening, which if... I know a lot of people who are like, yo, I'm not really that into Dragon Ball Z anymore, but you watch that opening, you're back in that shit. Because it is a sick remix of Chala Head Chala. That... man, it sucks you right in. Anyway, the story is that Future Trunks is a time cop, and someone is wrecking Dragon Ball Z history. So he gets 7 Dragon Balls, calls the Eternal Dragon, is like, Eternal Dragon, send me a warrior who could fix time, and that would happen to be you. And then, yeah, you go throughout time, you see classic Dragon Ball Z events, and things, like, screw it up, and you have to counterbalance that and fix it, and try to write history and like get it all working properly. It's got a couple of anime cutscenes, and it's pretty nice. The big thing I noticed, though, is that the controls in it are actually pretty good, which surprises me because it's a Dimps game. And as you know, I can't stand Dimps fighters. But this game controls quite well. You know why? Because it's not a fighting game. I'm not even kidding. There is no offline multiplayer, no split screen versus or co-op. It is all online, which is a bit of a downer. But, yeah, you gotta look at it the right way. If you look at it as a fighting game, yeah, you'll be disappointed, but that's not what it is. This is Dragon Ball Z Monster Hunter. It may play like Tenkaichi, but it's Monster Hunter. And I kind of like that. I do wish it had offline versus in co-op, yes, but yeah, that's what this game is. Like, after you play through the game a bit, you can go online, you can meet up with other people on there, you can team up, you can do 3-player co-op, 3-on-3 versus. It's good times. As you play through the game, you beat people, and you get their skills, and you can equip them. The combat mechanics are a lot like the Tenkaichi series, even though Dimps made it only simplified in such a way that I guess it might lose a little bit of its depth, but not too much of it, and I think it's way easier to play. Basically, you have, like, square is your weak attack, triangle is your strong attack. You can hold triangle to charge up your strong attack and turn it into a guard break. Circle is your projectile. You don't have to sit there and charge up your ki energy either. Now it's just wailing on enemies builds your ki, and you have like certain chunks of ki, and you spend that in order to do special and super moves. And special moves are just hold R2, press a face button. You assign different special moves to different face buttons. And yeah, you can cancel your combo strings into different special moves, and you can like learn everyone's special moves. Like, if there's a special move in the game, you can learn it and you can mix it up. And as such, they've put a serious effort into making the special moves more distinctive and unique from one another, resulting in there being like a good couple hundred moves that you can get to customize your character with, which is pretty neat. Having said that, the presentation isn't the best. This isn't the prettiest Dragon Ball Z game. And it does get really repetitive really fast. Because basically every stage is, hey, you're in this area. Here's a guy flying around. Go up and beat him up. And frequently, combos just turn into square, 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 R2 plus triangle. Square, 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 R2 plus triangle. Over and over again. Just basic attack combo, cancel into rapid punch special. Maybe I should have focused more on ki blasts with my character. But yeah, even with that, it's kind of neat. I will say that the game is hugely successful because the servers are flooded. I actually expect, if and when they make Xenoverse 2, I expect it might be a subscription service because of this. Because yeah, the servers were packed. Like, you couldn't get in. Heck, at some points, the servers were so packed you couldn't play single player without jumping through a few hoops. Basically, if you wanted to play single player and the servers were giving you crap because there was no, for some reason, there's no button to just skip the server check. What you do is you go to the PlayStation menu, you turn off your Wi-Fi or your internet. You tell it, don't connect to the internet. Then you start the game up, and then after the game starts up, you connect to the internet again. It all works out. You might want to connect to the internet again, because even when you can't get into the online lobbies, you can still get into the online multiplayer. It's really weird. And the half-online experience is pretty neat, too, because people's custom characters just show up scattered throughout the town, and you can look at them, and you can apparently hire them to help you fight on missions, which is a pretty cool idea. As I said, the game appears to be very successful because a lot of times on PS4, over 500 people are streaming it, making it like the 4th most streamed PS4 game. You know, it's being more streamed than Madden and Dying Light and Evolved and The Order, just not streamed as much as Modern Warfare and GTA 5. But yeah, it looks like they made bank. The point I'm trying to make, though, is that if you're a Dragon Ball Z fan, you will probably love the game on concept alone. If you're not a Dragon Ball Z fan, in even the most remote way, it's not a bad game, but you will find it to be rather repetitive. I've heard some people who know nothing about Dragon Ball Z still enjoyed it, because if nothing else, it's unique. Like, I was trying to think, like, if you took away the DBZ license but it was the exact same game, would it still be a good game? And the answer I came up with was, you can't take away the DBZ license because it's so intrinsic to the game. Even without the DBZ license, it would still be a Dragon Ball Z game. Having said that, speaking of DBZ games without the license, Dynasty Warriors Strike Force is still the better co-op Dragon Ball Z online experience. Man, Dynasty Warriors Strike Force is so good. In other news, and speaking of Dynasty Warriors, I also picked up Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires, which really surprised me. Because you see, I didn't used to like the Empire series. I thought they were all like complete crap because they were too restrictive. You couldn't really do good co-op in them, so I just I played the first Empires. I was like, this is crap. And they, like, a friend of mine convinced me to try 6 Empires, and it was crap. Then I tried 7 Empires. Wow, did I love Dynasty Warriors 7 Empires. The customization, the ability to upload and download custom characters, the fact that you could just make your own kingdom of custom characters and fight a bunch of random people in a completely random world as you tried to conquer China, and the options they gave you were so great in 7 Empires. Now, I didn't expect a lot out of 8 Empires, because they then took the 7 Empires customization system, tweaked it ever so slightly, and slapped it into Samurai Warriors 4. It's the exact same customization engine. And they took that, they enhanced it slightly, and put it into Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires. So I'm looking at it, and it's like, okay, on the plus side, I can remake Sarina, which was my favorite of the custom characters. I wrote down the formula for her. I was able to recreate her. That's super great. I actually don't quite like how the characters look on PS4, though, because the skin is less shiny. Everything looks a bit washed out. And, like, the lipstick isn't as pronounced, especially the white lipstick. It looks a little off. But in spite of that, I downloaded the Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires, like, customization demo they released in Japan, so you could make your own custom characters before the release and try out the customization. I was not that impressed. I'm actually not quite certain why I picked up 8 Empires, other than out of a weird sense of obligation. Then, and I actually took a few days to get around to it. Then I pop it in, actually spent time with it in English, and wow! The tweaks they made, like, I don't think you actually have to unlock clothing anymore. I think they just give you all the clothing, and it is everything from 7 Empires, including all the DLC, plus a bunch of new costume bits. The expanded hair colors and amount of hairs and various facial options, those are really, really nice. And then they take it further. You can customize horses. You can customize generic troops. You can upload your own images to customize banners. And then you can combine this together to create your own custom kingdoms. And even build your own custom campaigns full of your custom characters. In fact, for the first time ever, you can do a 100% custom game. Nothing but customs. But you need 300 customs to replace the entire cast. 300 customs, people. I want you to think about that. Guess what? If I'm not mistaken, there's 1,700 custom slots. Now, to make it easier to flesh this out, they've implemented the fusion system into Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires. Basically to approximate like what a relative or a child of a character would look like. You could go in there, select 2 custom characters, pick a gender, and it will sort of average out the facial features of the 2 characters and show you what a combination of those 2 characters would look like. And then you can save that, and you can then go in there and tweak it. Like, if it's like, that face looks really cool, but that outfit is dumb, or I don't want them just recycling the same weapon, you could do that. And all of this can be uploaded and downloaded, and it's nuts. Like, I never play the actual story missions. I'm just doing random custom crap. Also, wow, they've added some wacky-ass weapons. I think my favorite, like, I was amused when I could fight with a canoe that they called the Arm Blade. But they've topped that. They have a wooden bench. Except we don't call it a wooden bench, it's a dragon pillar. Not a wooden bench, a dragon pillar. I got nothing. Other than, the game is really fun. I will say, however, that there are some weird frame rate issues. They're very rare. What it is if you're in the middle of a huge crowd of people and you rapidly turn the camera around, there will be a frame rate hiccup. Because it doesn't display a huge chunk of the enemies that are off screen. If you suddenly put them on screen, like, it has to very quickly turn off the enemies that used to be in front of you and turn on the enemies that are now in front of you. So that's a little messy, but screw it. The game's fun. I'm having a blast with it. Apparently it was released on, like, everything. Like, I hear there's even a 360 version out there somewhere, which Seven Empires certainly didn't get. But anyway, I make no guarantees on how much you can customize those, though. They might not have the same amount of customization options. But anyway, I still need to crack into Under Night in Birth and Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. The big thing I can say about Kirby and the Rainbow Curse, though, is I applaud Nintendo for the pricing. It's $40 new, same as Captain Toad, which is actually a really, really good move. Because that's the kind of game where it's like, it's better, it's more than just an Xbox Live Arcade game, but it's really hard to justify, like, a full $60 price tag. So I'm very happy that they went with $40 and that they're trying to release more cheaper games. Because I feel that's what the public really wants. Or at least it's what I really want. I want more cheaper games that are still of, like, good quality. Now, speaking of Koei Tecmo, I guess I have to talk about the recent DOA5 controversy. Which, by the way, it's come to find out there were 1 million more bugs that Koei Tecmo had to work out. Apparently DOA5 was deleting save data if you played in a language other than English or Japanese and you did 2 of Raido's tutorials. As such, when they patched the when they recently patched the game, they put in a code you can enter to just unlock everything that's unlockable. Because they were like, too many people lost their save data due to this. Let's not screw them over. Let's do this. I applaud them. I applaud them for doing that. That was a cool move on their part. It's what they should have done. But as I keep saying, what a company should do and what they actually do are frequently different things. Now, the recent DOA5 controversy is the fact that the DOA5 community on Free Step Dodge, some of the tournament organizers got together and created a list of banned costumes that were too sexy for tournaments. And this is causing a huge uproar. Now, where do I even begin? A lot of people see this and they go, this is censorship. This is bad. How dare you? What the fuck is wrong with you? But that actually wasn't the reasoning behind it. These are soft bans. These are just suggested tournament rules. And the reason behind this is because DOA has a stigma of being nothing but fan service. It's all about the breasts. It's all about the skimpy outfits. No one takes it seriously. And the community's like, we need to change that. We need to show that there is more to this game than just boobs and fan service, right? So their idea is that the next time there's a tournament, let's not use sexy outfits. And it has received a ton of backlash. And rightfully so. I will explain why in a minute. Now, here's the thing. Supposedly this was spurred on because, in one tournament, the entire top 8 was, all skimpy bikinis. But, geez, where do I even begin with this? Because there's so many facets to why this is a bad idea. The first of these is the fact that what costumes are banned are really weird. Like, the ninja costumes are banned. Why are the ninja costumes banned? They aren't sexualized at all. In fact, it's the only Marie Rose costume that's banned. So, the sexy police officer outfit and the cheerleader outfit, those are perfectly fine on Marie Rose, but not the ninja outfit. And then, a couple of the one-piece swimsuits are banned, and some of the overalls are, and someone made a list of the most eyebrow-raising banned costumes, and they're like, what in the crap? At the same time, there are some skimpy, sexy outfits that aren't banned, and of course, yes, none of the male costumes are banned, and yes, there are some very questionable male costumes, and there are not a lot of them. We could probably use more. But, we've got Leather Demon Ein, you've got Gimp Rudolph Ein, and then, of course, you have less shirt, more action, Jackie, who's one of my favorites, because that is just redonkulous right there. So, there is that, but I feel that the wonky nature of these bans is a grand example of why censorship doesn't work. Because these are probably, this is the DOA community. These are the most qualified people to determine what is and isn't too sexy for a tournament. And even they fucked it up. Even they banned outfits that were not sexualized at all, left in a bunch of outfits that were sexualized. It's like, if they can't get it right, what hope does anyone else have? Because this does happen every time anyone tries to filter out things that are too sexy or too questionable. They will invariably block some very progressive stuff and let through some regressive stuff, and it just plain doesn't work and does more harm than good. Now, the reasoning behind this ban, though, is actually kind of logical, because the NeoGAF thread on it, after quoting it, the guy who created the thread was like, I don't get it. Are these people trying to say there's more to DOA than just boobs? And he's like, I just play it for the boobs. And maybe, even if this isn't successful, it is getting a good bit of buzz, and maybe it can be DOA's new Coke debacle. I don't think this costume ban is going to gain much traction. It's a soft ban. People are tournament organizers have to choose to use it, and I think a lot of them are going to go screw that. I'm sure at least one of them is going to host a tournament that is OMG breast physics, bikinis only, Zack Island, which is much better than no items Fox only Final Destination. You think it won't happen, but I'm telling you, someone is just going to get pissed off and do that. I fully applaud them if they do. And in fact, that raises the other question: what happens if someone didn't get the memo? What happens if someone picks a banned outfit they didn't know was banned? What if they didn't know there were banned outfits ahead of time? Or what if someone just gets cheeky and chooses a banned outfit? What are the consequences of picking a banned outfit? Do we just restart the match, or do they lose the match? Are they disqualified because of their costume choices? And the very fact that someone would have to be enforcing this on stream would be, if you ask me, even more embarrassing. It's one thing to have skimpy costumes, it's another to say, oh, our costumes are so skimpy, we have to ban them in tournaments. All in all, though, I don't think this is a very good idea. Just because it doesn't work. And I know there's a bunch of people out there who say, if DOA, wasn't sexualized, it was just about the fighting, I'd actually play it. I really wish they'd release a non-sexualized DOA and did make it more about the fighting. These people are called liars. Because they did. It's called DOA5 Vanilla. That game was drastically toned down from all the other DOAs. And yes, the fans complained. Like, the Koei Tecmo's Western branch told them, please turn down the sexuality. Then they asked the fans, and the fans said, please crank it back up. And they kind of reached this weird sort of equilibrium. But in general, it was way less sexualized than the average DOA. Everyone has reasonable clothing. The breasts are smaller. They're not as jiggly as they were. You can even turn that off. And guess what? All the reviews of that game said the same thing. They said it was, even though they spent like 7 years retooling DOA, it's just more of the same. Some people even said that graphically it looked the same, even though they completely overhauled the engine drastically, which was why it took like 7 years to make the fucking game. And they all said that the only reason this game exists is because of the boobs, and everyone who plays it is a crappy pervert. And yeah, it still got crapped on. Even desexualizing DOA, this didn't work. Now, as a friend of mine pointed out, that's because you can't get rid of that stigma in one game. They'd have to do this again in DOA6 and DOA7, except, newsflash, without those sexy costumes, DOA6 would not be in development. Apparently, they have started. Because DOA5 Vanilla flopped. The fighting game community snubbed it. People just said that it was pervy fan service. It didn't get a lot of hype and press. And the community looked at it and said, this seems kind of dry compared to other DOAs. Ready? Where all the money came from that game was the Bikini DLC, which was why Koei Tecmo changed their entire release plan. Because, as a lot of people pointed out in an early interview, they said they would never charge for DLC characters. Guess what? They charge for DLC characters, so that pisses people off. I want you to think about that. They completely changed their business model when they did Ultimate, and that actually wound up helping DOA. So there's a lot of people that don't really have a lot of money. You give them a free fighting game, suddenly they're interested. And DOA 5 Ultimate, last round, Core Fighters, is one of the least scammy free-to-plays I've ever seen. I mean, they give you 4 characters completely free with online play and full training modes and everything. You could be a competitive DOA player without spending a single penny. And it's brilliant because I feel that the idea that sex sells is highly misunderstood. Everyone likes to say sex sells. Guess what? Sex doesn't sell over $20. It's got to be $20 or less. I always tell the story of Rumble Roses, because when Rumble Roses came out, it fell flat on its face. It completely flopped. Guess what? It dropped to $20 like 2 months, 3 months later. We couldn't keep the thing in stock. It was flying off store shelves. We were constantly being shipped more and more Rumble Roses. As soon as it hit $20, we couldn't keep it on the shelves. This is because fan service games have a very bad reputation. People do want them, but it's commonly thought of that a fan service game is garbage. That the only thing about it is a fan service, that's the only draw to cover up the crappy gameplay. It doesn't help that the gameplay is rarely covered. So it has to drop to a price where they can justify purchasing something just because of the boobs. As such, $60, $50, even $40, a bit too high for that. But imagine you're just sitting there one day, you go on the PlayStation Network, and, oh, look at this, new DOA costume pack came out. My screen is suddenly filled with gorgeous pictures of sexy women in skimpy outfits with a little $2 price tag below it. I can afford $2. What's that? The game is free? What's that? Characters are now $4, so $6 you can start playing with that outfit? A lot of people are like, yeah, that's not that expensive, and they buy into it. Well, guess what? Now they have the character, they have the outfit. Now what are you going to do with it? Well, now you got to play the game, and oh, what's this? There is a lengthy, comprehensive tutorial. There is full online multiplayer with fantastic lobbies. There's huge over 100 move lists. There are deep technical mechanics, coupled with gorgeous graphics and phenomenal presentation. And what do you know? This isn't half-assed fan-servicey garbage. This is top-shelf shit. This is good stuff. It draws people in. Whether we like it or not, DOA is never going to escape its stigma. DOA Extreme Beach Volleyball is legend. It is etched into the history of video games, and with good reason. It began as a joke in magazines, in Western magazines. LOL, they should just make a beach volleyball game. They should totally make one. They could call it Extreme Beach Volleyball. Guess what? Itagaki looked at that, said that's a great idea, made the game. DOA Extreme Beach Volleyball is the #1 go-to game everyone thinks of when they think of a hypersexualized video game. Frequently if they haven't even played it. More people know Extreme Beach Volleyball than the original fighting game series. As I joked, I said that the tagline, "I'm a fighter," was because people don't know DOA is a fucking fighting series. Because of this, DOA will never not be thought of as a fan service game. No matter how much they tone it down, it will always be associated with Extreme Beach Volleyball. It has become, since the beginning, it's always kind of been like that. It is part of DOA's identity. To remove that, the game kind of becomes bland. And this is where I came up with a weird realization. While DOA5 is comically snubbed by the fighting game community, how often do you see non-Tekken 3D fighter tournaments? How often do you see Soul Calibur tournaments? They still happen, but even though the fighting game community was like, "Oh yeah, Soul Calibur 5 is so good," we don't see a lot of Soul Calibur 5 tournaments, do we? How about Virtua Fighter tournaments? Virtua Fighter, greatest fighting game ever made, most balanced fighter ever, the deepest, most technical thing in the history of the universe. Yeah, how are those Virtua Fighter tournaments going? Oh, right. So few people play Virtua Fighter that they couldn't even get the update to it into a boxed release. They had to make some content cuts and release it as a downloadable. So how about DOA tournaments? Well, you don't see them very often, but you do see them with Koei Tecmo actively supporting and promoting these tournaments, posting videos of the matches on their official YouTube channel, running Japanese tournaments. And while it has to rely on its own separate community from the fighting game community, has a community that is ever growing and is decently sized. What I'm saying is, DOA may well be the second most played 3D fighter on the market, with the most played, of course, being Tekken. And Tekken plays so differently that it almost doesn't even count. DOA is like the last of the Mohicans here. It is one of the few 3D fighters people actually still play. And a lot of that is because of its fan servicey identity. It is sexy booby bikini battles, except deep and technical. That is part of the draw. So I bet you're thinking, so what? Am I saying that DOA's mechanics aren't good enough for it to stand on its own 2 feet? People, I'm saying Virtua Fighter's mechanics aren't good enough for it to be able to stand on its own 2 feet. Oh yeah, it has a reputation as like the greatest fighting game ever made. No one fucking plays it though. I mean, think about it. That's the greatest, most balanced fighting game ever made. You want to play it? No. You need a hook. You need a catch. You need a twist. Soul Calibur's is very much the setting and the environment and the orchestral epic music. Tekken just has so many characters. It's such a unique play style that hooks people in. At DOA, yeah, it has the fan service. That is part of its identity, and you take that away, everyone would snub it. It would become another Bloody Roar, because let me tell you, if a 3D fighter ever loses popularity, it just vanishes. Like, Bloody Roar is, honestly, if you go back and play some of those, that aren't 4, those are phenomenal fighting games. A bit on the unbalanced side, but what the fuck wasn't? And a lot of those still hold up today. I will continue to insist that Bloody Roar 1 is a vastly superior game to Soul Calibur 5 and 4 and 3. I would argue about 2. We can argue about 1. We can argue about 1. I know some people consider Soul Calibur 1 to be like the greatest 3D fighter ever, and that's one I'll kind of concede on. All the other ones now, Bloody Roar 1's better. The first Bloody Roar, it's better. But here's the thing, Bloody Roar used to get good reviews, but with 3D fighters, like, you can kind of just mash buttons and you'll do a combo. They're really weird, because like, you can just mash buttons and you'll do a super flashy combo, but when you actually try to get into high-level play, the real legitimate combos, I think, are actually harder to do than a 2D fighter. Which creates, like, a lot of people talk about glass ceiling. This is like an oversized glass staircase. Like, there's this huge step between mashing buttons, which is weirdly effective, and actually playing the game on a serious competitive level. And people will love the game as long as they're mashing buttons, and the moment they realize they have to play on a competitive level, they quit because it's too hard. And that's a unique trait of 3D fighters. So the people who want to get good and play a deep technical game, they start out, they get their ass kicked by people mashing the controller against their face, and they get pissed off. The game is too easy to button mash in. But the people who button mash and are enjoying the game often don't take the next step to become better because it is way too hard. As such, 3D fighters, that coupled with a couple other things, like the fact that movement in 3D fighters can often be really one-dimensional, makes it so 3D fighters don't have the same sticking power as 2D fighters. They rely entirely on their gimmicks and popularity and name value to remain popular. And the moment someone brings out an off-brand 3D fighter, no matter how good it is, it'll just get laughed off the face of the earth. I mean, just look at Kokdo Chojin. Oh, everyone will rave about Tobal because it was released by Square Enix, but you have literally the exact same game with a different skin. Oh, it's the worst fighting game ever made. Look, I don't think Kokdo Chojin is that great, but if you honestly think that's the worst fighting game ever made, you clearly haven't played a whole lot of fighting games. Like, Kokdo Chojin is at worst mediocre, but it gets slammed because it was a 3D fighter that had no name and no real hook to a lot of people, and that was pulled off the market and all that stupid crap happened. When Bloody Roar being just a button masher, when the idea that Bloody Roar is just a button masher gained a foothold, it evaporated. People just made fun of it, they stopped playing it, it got crap review scores no matter how good the games were. Soul Calibur is looking to begin walking down that path. It still has enough of a grip and enough staying power to that they could probably get out at least one more sequel before people start snubbing it. But the sheer amount of excessive changes between Soul Caliburs, fracturing the player base, and people constantly being salty that none of the games are quote-unquote as good as Soul Calibur 2. I'm not a fan of Soul Calibur 2 because I think the game is one of the most unbalanced fighters ever made. I mean, it's just the Siegfried and Ivy show, and Cervantes if he's allowed. Ivy is so comically overpowered in that game. I don't see why you'd play anyone. Raphael's pretty alright, too. But I remember the tournament rosters were nothing but Siegfrieds and Ivies, because they were just too good compared to the entire rest of the cast. Balance issues aside, Soul Calibur 2 has one of the largest move lists of a 3D fighter, far bigger than DOA5 or any other entry in the Soul Calibur series, though it can be argued that maybe it has gotten too big at that point, because you could get good mix-up just by mashing your face against the controller. Too many move button inputs are effective with minimal consequences. But I'm not a big Soul Calibur 2 player, so I could be talking mostly out my ass. Much of this could come from the fact that I was trying to main Talim and it didn't work out. Having said that, I'm not a Soul Calibur pro. I shit talk, but I do love the series just for the atmosphere. But I've never gotten into it from a competitive standpoint. But you're starting to see my point, right? And then Virtua Fighter, it doesn't have enough popularity to get a boxed release. I have no clue how they're going to do Virtua Fighter 6. Like, I really think the only option is to team up with DOA. Just make the next one DOA meets Virtua Fighter and make it a Fighters Megamix. It could be Fighters Megamix 2 featuring DOA. As a collaborative effort between Team Ninja and Sega. That would be amazing. As much as I hate Brad from Virtua Fighter, I do want to see the tag team of Brad and Brad. Because then it would truly be the Brad Show. So, yeah, that's my opinion on the DOA5 costume ban. As speaking of sexy DOA5 costumes, we've gotten a preview of the Senran Kagura crossover costumes for DOA5. Which, you look at them and you go, wow, those are way less skimpy than the average DOA outfit. This is almost awkward. It's like you really need balloon breasts 3 times the size of your head to make those outfits work. Yeah, word on the street is, those Senran Kagura costumes, they're gonna be destructible. I think we know what the new mechanic for DOA6 is. Which, on that note, if they go that route, with destructible clothing, I would just like to point out that Soul Calibur did it first. As usual. If there's one thing that kind of annoys me, it's how much people think DOA makes all these strides in fan service. No, it is actually playing second fiddle to the Soul series. It always has been. Soul Edge had the panty color select. Soul Edge had boob physics. Soul Calibur 3 had individual boob physics a good while before Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball 2. It is a much better use of them because it's more subtle. And yes, Soul Calibur had destructible clothing long before that as well. Although, if you want to really go back, we're mostly thinking of the Virtua Fighter system. So, or not Virtua Fighter, Fighting Vipers system. So, if they do go that route, let's all keep our fingers crossed that maybe Candy, Honey, and Grace might show up in the next DOA a little bit. Get some Virtua Fighters in, or some Fighting Vipers in there. It'd be kind of cool. I'm just saying. Anyway, I think I've covered enough here. I know this is a kind of incoherent entry episode thing, but we will continue to talk about DOA or something. I don't know. I will get back to you when I get my Rivercity ransom. I need to get back to work on my rail shooters because I just keep finding more. I'm friggin' loving this project. Because I mean, when you make a list, you can start to find just anything. It just keeps growing. I've got like 121 rail shooters on the list now that I have to go through. I am loving this. So, expect a new episode pretty soon. I got the footage recorded for one. Footage recorded for two, actually. I need to record the audio and then get more footage of one that I already recorded the audio for. And, yeah, hopefully I should have more rail shooters up soon. Until then, I hope you've enjoyed me rambling for a good 45 minutes. I hope the awkward pacing of this episode doesn't bother you. Anyway, catch you again soon. See ya.